Now, this is Brandon Carmody with the latest from the LGBTQIA community on the GNR Radio Network.
You're listening to Gay News Radio. We're here with special guest Aydian Dowling, trans activist and entrepreneur. Welcome to Gay News Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So this is, as they say, National Coming Out Day weekend. Sunday the 11th is the official National Coming Out Day, so we appreciate you sharing a little bit of your life and your story with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited. National Coming Out Day is a great time for people to bond together, and it's exciting, you know. So it's a nice time for us as a community to get together and just reminisce over when we came out and encourage others who are feeling restrained in their life to come out and give them support. So it's awesome to be here, and thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Aydian, question number one. At what age would you say that you started questioning your sexuality in any way or noticed a same-sex attraction or anything that was going on? What age would you, or age range would you say that may have happened in?
I would say when I first started finding an attraction, I had a very schoolboy crush when I was in third grade on one of my music teachers, but I think I was more of like an infatuation. I don't think it was like anything that had to do with like a physical attraction. But then once I hit seventh grade, so I think you're like 13 in seventh grade, 12, 13, that's when I actually fell in love with my best friend kind of thing in school. And I went through the kind of phase of like, oh no, I don't like girls, I just like that girl. And then all of a sudden it was like, actually maybe I like all the girls.
Okay. So you would kind of put it right around in the puberty years, right? Right around 13,
Yeah, it's like 12, 13, definitely around that time frame, right when you start to kind of hit puberty.
Okay. Now, is there anything that may have helped you come to the realization, such as, maybe a film that you saw, movies, songs, or everyday classmates that you interacted with? Anything that helped you spring the magic spark, so to speak?
Yeah, actually, I have like a funny little story. I was sick one day, so I was staying home from school, and I was watching a soap opera, because they're all on during school hours, and I was just sitting there watching a soap opera, All My Children, actually. And all of a sudden, I'm watching the show, and these two girls are kind of flirting. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And then I literally tuned in for, like, the first female-on-female kiss in daytime television history. And I just happened to click on the TV that day, and it really, like, sparked something in me. I saw the kiss. It gave me all these, like, I got butterflies in my stomach when I was watching it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And then I went online, and I actually became, like, a little bit obsessed with All My Children for a good year, like recording it every day to follow this lesbian story on the show. And it was really like a turning point. It was kind of like when I saw them kiss on TV, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm allowed to do that. Like I can actually go and kiss other girls and it will be accepted, That was kind of like one of the first big things that was like, oh, it's okay to like girls as a girl, It was definitely like a little turning point. And it was just really, obviously I must have, somewhere in the universe, I was supposed to be sick that day, and I was supposed to see that because it really opened up some doors. I found, I started following them online. I found other people, other lesbians and gay people online who loved the show too, and we would bond over it. And it was a nice little connection to the community, having experienced that and then being able to go online and meet other people and just have that conversation, being such a young lesbian who was still exploring their sexuality and what it is to like the same sex and what does that mean and how am I going to be treated. So it was nice. It was a nice little support system that I was able to kind of dive into unexpectedly, but at all the right perfect timing.
Excellent. So I wanted to ask you about, when did you officially come out to family and friends, if it was a one event type thing? Is there discernible point in your life where you came out to family and friends?
I would say there's like two moments, because I came out to my friends a good, 2 years before I came out to my parents. I was about 15 when I came out to my friends, around that age. I came out to like my best friend first, and then she helped me tell a couple of friends. And I was at Catholic school at the time, and then when I went to public school in 11th grade, I came out like publicly to everybody. I was known as like the gay kid in school. I finally told my parents and stuff, and so that was about the time frame and how I went about doing it. And then I came out as transgender when I was a little bit older. I was about 22 when I came out as transgender, and I kind of went around it the same way. I told my friends first, and then but like instead of 2 years, it was about 2 weeks later I told my parents.
Exactly, and I was going to ask that because I believe you specifically said that clearly in your teenage years that you came out as a lesbian. So you had 2 rounds with discovering your own sexualdy. So the world is fascinated by your story. So please enlighten me. Tell us about the realization that you were trans. How did that go for you? How does that work?
It was really difficult to really understand what I was going through, because I did identify with being in a female body who liked other female bodies. So textbook, I was a lesbian. And, I tried my best when I first came out in those high school years to embrace being a lesbian, and I tried going to hanging out with other lesbians and really getting into the gay community. I lived in New York on Long Island, so I was going to gay pride and all that stuff, and I really loved the community, but something about being a lesbian just didn't really cover every single thing about me. It was so much more than just my attraction, my physical sexual attraction to other people. It was about my actual identity and how I felt on the inside. And so I didn't really know much about transgender people, and I hadn't really met anybody who was transgender. But as I got older, I, became going to more events, and I met a couple of trans people. But even then, meeting them, I wasn't really sure, because I thought that being transgender meant you didn't want to be who you were. I didn't understand that being transgender means you actually want to be exactly who you are, more authentically than not. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm also assuming that you didn't have the famous role models that are available to you today, like your Laverne Cox, Janet Mock, Caitlyn Jenner, that kind of thing, as far as public examples of someone not afraid to be authentic as themselves, right? They weren't
Definitely. No, nobody was out there, honestly. It was, and it was still, I think we were still in that mix of drag and transgender, and I think people were mixing the two up. They thought that being trans meant, you dressed up and lived that life, but you didn't actually identify in that gender, when that's not the case. It's actually you identifying that gender, and you're not dressing up, you're just dressing as you. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she asked me if I ever thought about being a man. And I didn't really know where it came from, but after she sparked she ignited a flame that kind of went up and bursted the whole house, and I just started realizing, wow, oh my goodness, that is it. That's the missing piece. That's why although I am female bodied, attracted to females, so on book I would be a lesbian, but I think there's more to it. I think it's my actual identity, not just my sexual attraction, but my identity, my gender identity. And that's when the ball started really rolling, and I started noticing, oh, wow, I feel a lot more comfortable in men's clothes. And that's why I always wanted to play football with the boys, and I would fight over who moved desks in 5th grade and, all these generic, stereotypical male things I was always fighting to do. And it's because I identified with them. I felt as though, that was the role that I wanted to play, and not so much the female role. And I think once I met somebody who was transgender and living this authentic life, it really opened up new doors. It was wow, I can actually be myself, and I don't have to label myself according to this textbook definition of my sexuality rather than my gender.
That's fascinating. One question for you, and this is based off of a transgender person that I was close to about a decade ago. Does the state still make people go for evaluations and certify you with gender dysphoria in order to qualify for surgeries? Do you still get qualified with a disorder in order to get state approval? Is that still part of the process?
So it's a little tricky because there's two different ways to get approval for surgeries or for hormones, and one of them is like informed consent. So if you're over 18, you can go to, but it's only in really big cities usually to get informed consent. So pretty much if you're over 18 and you're knowledgeable and you go through the steps, which means you meet with the doctors a couple of times, you get your blood work done and everything, you also meet with a therapist multiple times, and you show that you're informed, then you can kind of go ahead with the procedures or get the hormones. But a lot of people still have to go to therapy for a standard amount of time. Luckily, the DSM-I got changed, which is the the official therapy book, a list of all the disorders and stuff. And luckily, being transgender was taken out, so it was originally known as gender identity disorder, and now that was taken out. So it's not really a disorder, but you still have to go to therapy. So it's kind of a tricky. It's not exactly. You still have to be diagnosed. So it's hard because if you don't have the diagnosis, then you can't necessarily get help through insurance if you do have insurance. But then if you don't, but it's really not a disorder. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we used to have homosexuality in the DSM-I. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of the same thing. It used to be in there, and now it's been taken out. And it's a great thing. It was an awesome thing because we're not crazy people. We don't have a disorder. We actually just have a disconnection from our body to our soul self, our identity.
Well, then let me ask you two questions. And we're really getting into the meat of the topic here pretty quickly. But as far as trans rights and trans issues, remember there's that whole hashtag Trans Lives Matter, Traveling with Trans. We've had some of these interviews. So here's the first question. Obviously, being probably the most marginalized part of the LGBTQIA rainbow, is this an area where there needs to be more legislation or more work done so that we can clear that hurdle to where people no longer have to be deemed with a dysphoria or with a disorder? Is that a major focus of trans rights that still needs to happen?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think every focus of trans rights still needs to happen. I mean, I think transgender people are, I think as you can see in this past year, we've even had the ability to try to use a public restroom taken away from us. So I think every single right that transgender people need, it needs to be at the forefront of everything. But I definitely think that our mental health needs to be there, because our mental health is going to help our youth and help our kids kind of, how to maneuver around your gender identity and how to discover what that is and how to deal with that. And with that, we need to educate the parents and the counselors of how to handle a child or how to handle a youth that is going through this, and how not to pressure them, and, to let them explore their gender identity. And it's definitely something that needs to be at the forefront. I mean, we need to be respected as human beings and not as creatures or somebody that's different, but we're trying to treat them normal. We just need to be treated as though we are normal and get the rights that basic human beings, basic rights of humans have. And those are the things we need, like our health care, like being respected when we're in prisons, like our name changes, like our gender markers, like our passports. I mean, I'm having an issue right now with my passport. I couldn't even leave the country because they're trying to say that my doctor's notes are not relevant. Meanwhile, I've been on hormones and transitioning for the last 6 years. So, it's still a very tricky system within our political system, our healthcare system, our educational system. I mean, everything has to be fought for it, and that's why we still need, and we need more people to keep fighting and more representation in the media, in in the White House, in our assembly, in our basic state rights for making basic laws like the bathroom bills that we're trying to be passed. I mean, these are basic rights that we need to continue to keep fighting for.
And I agree, 100%, absolutely. Without a doubt, the most marginalized part of the LGBTQI group. Is there a sense of community within the trans community? And the reason that I ask you this is that we've had a guest on recently that had that awful TSA experience, the trans woman who live tweeted the TSA nightmare, and we had a panel going, and several members of the panel said the same thing, that the TSA experience is somewhat common regardless of what city and what airport, because they literally have some type of a gender button, and a TSA agent makes a visual determination of your gender based on what they see and what they think, and it may not match your papers, it may not match your biology, and then when it sets off an alarm and they bring in, bomb testing and set off alerts, it just becomes a civil rights nightmare. So, So the question is, do members of the trans community really rally around yourselves for support because you're part of the most marginalized group? Do you find a lot of trans support in your life?
Oh, definitely. There's tons of trans support. I mean, I think every marginalized group has, their own issues within that group, within that community. But I think when it comes to end of day, we all have each other's back. Trans men, trans women, anybody under the transgender umbrella, meaning gender nonconformers. It's really, I think now too, like this year has been a really great bonding moment for us all, because we're seeing a lot of successes, but we're also seeing a lot of failures. And what comes with failures comes new ideas and more people who are inspired. And, we have a lot of youth that are coming out, a lot of people that are identifying as transgender that have never did before in their past. And some of them are much older, some of them are very young. And I think it's making us realize that our community is way larger and that it's motivating us to fight for ourselves. I mean, I haven't been more motivated than each year I feel like that I've started identifying as transgender and really living my authentic self. I've been more and more motivated to just fight for our cause. I mean, I think when we see each other bonding together, we realize, wow, like we can make a difference. Like, look what we can do. I mean, especially with the whole gay marriage passing this year. I mean, I think that was a big turning point. I think we all in our entire LGBTQA plus community realized, wow, guys, like if we bond together and we keep fighting and we don't give up, look what we can do. Like we can actually change things. And I think that sparks a lot of fire in our community and really bonds us together for sure.
I second that. It's been an incredible year. I saw a lot of champagne glasses clanking and a lot of celebration. And with all due rights and with due respect, of course, there was absolutely a moment to celebrate. From Stonewall until June 2015 was a very long 44, 45 years of LGBT civil rights pushes just to get to that point. And if you want my personal take on it, I think we're still 10 or 20 years behind. I mean, we should have been here in the 90s or the 2000s, but I digress. So one question that I do want to ask, just getting into your life a little bit, I want to ask how you became the Page One story. So this is so fascinating to me. So you've been a YouTube blogger, but this has something to do with the contest. This is how you got elevated to being on the cover of all the digital magazines. Tell us how you became the Page One story. I'm very fascinated.
Well, like you said, I started documenting my transition online through YouTube when, and I believe it was in 2009, around February of 2009. So I've been documenting my transition from pre-hormones and first identifying as transgender all the way until I posted a video about a week and a half ago or so. And I've definitely had a lot of support myself. Like I've gotten a lot of support from the online community, and that in turn made me really want to help the online community because it really made me notice that there's tons and there's thousands of people out there in their homes, stuck in their homes because they don't even want to go outside. And I really wanted to help motivate those people because I needed to motivate myself too. And motivating them motivated me, supporting them supported myself. It was really a mutual beneficial relationship. And then I started my clothing company, Point 5cc. And Point 5cc is a donation-based clothing company, meaning a large amount of our proceeds go to a surgery fund, which we give away every single year. We also have a binder exchange program. If you don't know what a binder is just a compression vest that some transgender males decide to wear to make their chest appear more masculine before they're able to receive top surgery, which is the removal of breast tissue. We have a binder exchange program, which is a revolving door, meaning that when you get your surgery, you donate your old binder, and then we give it away for free to somebody who buys a T-shirt, which in turn donates to the next guy who's going to get his top surgery. So everybody's donating and receiving at the same time, and that company has really taken off. We actually just implemented the breast forms for trans women. We're expanding our line. It's really taking off, that company, and that's where I give a lot of support to our community and give back, and I try my best to give us an opportunity to have clothing and have that has pride, something with, all of our designs are really positive. They're supposed to be inspirational, but at the same time, they are a little bit more self-style, meaning if you walk into a bar and you are wearing one of our clothing items, it's not necessarily saying I'm a transgender or I'm a transgender supporter, because unfortunately this day and age, we're not safe everywhere we go, and we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in danger on purpose, so it's a way to show pride without outing yourself, and also to give back to the community that you're a part of. And that's been a big part of how I give back to the community, as well as I do speaking events, and I've done Transgender Day of Remembrance speaking, and I worked at LGBT centers before. So I've really given my life to the community, and I have absolutely no complaints about it. I mean, it's really been my I was a baker, and I really tried to do that, but I kept getting pulled back into doing this community work for the transgender community, and in the last 2 years, I've really taken on that role and started to love it, and I've lived a happier life living for the community than I did before.
And you recreated an Adam Levine image. I'm so curious about that. Is that what they do? A Page One story? What was it that leapt you into the headlines? Because I swear there was a moment sometime in the last 10 months where I hate to admit I was completely unaware of you, and then you were everywhere. You were on everything, and it was like, oh my God. Was it the Adam Levine or picture?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was the Adam Levine picture. I was on the cover of FTM magazine for all the community work, like I just mentioned, and Jason Robert Ballard, who is an amazing guy. He's the owner and founder of FTM magazine. He asked me to be on the cover for my work, and then we wanted to recreate some really cool pictures because I do have the clothing line. He thought this would be a great opportunity to get a little artsy, and he sent me a text asking if I wanted to recreate of the picture of Adam being naked with the hands over his junk, and he's like, hey, do you want to redo this picture? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like, I'm not sure.
Did that seem like a little bit of a stretch?
Yeah, it just felt a little, the first time I'm going to be in any type of publication, I mean, even though it is more of an underground kind of magazine, it was a little nerve-wracking, to be exposing my body in such a way, being transgender, your body is really one thing that you tend to struggle with. So putting it out there was kind of nerve-wracking. But obviously, I think it really showed that when I showed my vulnerability, it really benefited because, like you said, it kind of took off. I think within like the first 24 hours, it pretty much went viral. I was actually Googling, like, what does it mean to go viral? Like, how many hits do you need to call it viral? And once we hit over like 500,000 views in the first like 48 hours or something like that, and like you said, it was like all of a sudden it was like article after article after article, and I think it really changed. It made people start thinking like, well, what does transgender look like? What is it? What does it look like? What does it mean to be transgender? What do we see when we see a trans man exposed like that? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? And I think that's why a lot of people picked it up. Plus, there's not much transgender male representation in the media right now. So I think it was a great opportunity to show pride in our bodies and that we can learn to love our bodies, and also just to give some visibility to the transgender male community.
Well, it was your lightning in a bottle. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but just to use the analogy here of kind of a pinball that literally goes down a machine and it gets kicked from side to side. I think I literally saw your story and your image come out and everything. It just off the top of my head, out, advocate, QWERTY, HuffPost, gay, LGBTQ, I think everything that we could name, they covered you either immediately or shortly thereafter, didn't they? It was in all the LGBT publications, everything.
Yeah, it really took off. You're really right. Honestly, as you list them, I'm like, wow, he's right. It did. It really did, didn't it?
Well, no, I was doing my podcast, and that's my daily reading material. That's my classified briefing, and you were all over that briefing.
Were you sick of seeing my face? I hope not. I try to, give a real smile in the pictures so that you're not sick of seeing me.
But the other thing I want to ask you about that is that you're clearly, and take this as a compliment, you're very buff. You are very athletic. So tell me that's not something that you picked up overnight. That you had to have been working at athletics for a while. Am I right?
Oh yeah, for sure. One of the first, when I first started transitioning, before I was able to do it medically, because like we mentioned earlier, you do have to go through a process. You can't just show up at your doctor and get hormones if that's something you'd like to do. I started working out because I knew that if I started to change what I saw in the mirror and build some more muscle, I would feel more masculine. And I've been training pretty much since that day in 2009. So I love being active. I love hiking, playing sports. I'm just definitely a go-getter when it comes to being physical and stuff like that. So I've definitely put in some work. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
So, and this is a perfect opening. Did that mean that you were a reader of Men's Health magazine?
Yeah, no, I've definitely bought a couple of Men's Health magazines in the past. That is for sure.
So, what was your draw to the idea of they held a contest, right? Is that what happened, and you just decided to throw your hat in the ring, or was there more to it?
It was a little more to it. They were hosting a contest, Men's Health Ultimate Guy contest. They say that the Ultimate Guy is a fearless doer who gives back to his community. And I have received a couple of emails within a very short period of time, like 2 or 3 emails within like 48 hours of one another, saying, hey man, you should apply for this contest. Like, it would be great to have trans male representation, and we think that you fit all the criteria. So I was really flattered that people were even thinking that I could even possibly appear on the cover of Men's Health. And I was thinking, you know what? I had a small following at the time, and I always tried to preach that, we are men and that we deserve and should be respected as men. And I wanted to show the community that, we could be on the cover. You know what? Even if I wasn't sure that I deserve to be on the cover, I think that a trans man deserves to be on Men's Health. We are men. And so I applied, and I had no idea that it would take off to the amount that I would be in the top 5. And oh my goodness, I had like 72,000 votes. It was just phenomenal. It really sparked the drive in me to just keep going. It was fantastic the way the community bounded together, and even outside of our community, it was crazy.
How long is the contest? Like, how long have you been in this contest?
Oh my goodness, this contest, it has been a long contest. I believe I applied in April, and it's October.
Cool. Well, no, we wish you the best of luck. I wanna spring off that a little bit and ask you about going on the Ellen DeGeneres show. First of all, congratulations. That is, you've arrived, right? Right when you walk into that stage in that studio, you've arrived. Am I right, Aydian?
Yeah, right. Like when they call your name and they play that music and you walk out. I mean, that was just, I had chills walking out to that music and seeing Ellen, and like, you know, for the whole week before I was going to go on, I'm like, I just kept thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit in that white chair. How many butts have, like, famous butts have sit in this white chair? You know what I mean?
Now, as amazing as that is, though, I watched the full interview yesterday, and she posed some very good questions, and she raised some relevant issues. I think she drew attention to the fact that just you being in this contest or the possibilities, that's a first. That is the first time ever, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's the first time Men's Health has really even thought of trans men. Honestly, I truly feel that when I have spoken to them, and I spoke to Bill Phillips, who's editor-in-chief, I mean, he said that, you know, with my entry, it really made Men's Health for the very first time, which is an interesting statement to me, but he said for the very first time they made them question, what is it to be a man? And I think that's such a question that a lot of people were missing, you know what I mean? And it means a lot to know that, you know, a transgender man really brought out the concept of the contest. You know what I mean? Like, what is a man? What is it to be a man? You know, and the fact that we could make such a large company question this was really cool in a way, you know, because it's like we have confidence in ourselves, and they're not even sure why they identify as men. But we get asked all the time, like, what is it to be a man to you? You know? So I usually like to ask the man who's asking me the question, what does it mean to be a man? I ask them, well, what do you think it means to be a man? You know what I mean? And it was a really nice conversation, and I think it was really eye-opening to them, you know? It really was.
I realize that there's only one answer to this question, but is Ellen DeGeneres true, and is everything about her true empathy for the community? Is it authentic? Did you just feel an abundance of love and genuineness from her?
You know, I'll tell you this. I felt protected by her. It was really an amazing feeling. During the commercial break, she leaned over to me, and she put her hand on my knee, and she looked me dead in the eye, and she just said, she was talking to me about the community, and she was saying how she came out, and that, you know, she really respected everything that I was doing, and she, you know, she wanted the segment to be a true segment. It wasn't just supposed to be, you know, fluffy pillows and lightheartedness. You know, she really wanted to get into a little something, you know, not too, you know, she wanted to dive, not like completely dive in, because I think some people would get lost, but she really wanted to introduce her viewers, but at the same time make sure that she was protecting me and that she wasn't putting me in danger or asking me questions that she didn't, you know, feel were comfortable. And that was a really awesome feeling. I mean, I heard, who doesn't really love Ellen, right? But after that, it was kind of like, wow, you know, like, this girl is so much more than a dancing fool and, you know, a comedian. You know, she really has a lot to offer, and she's trying her best to give it back. You know what I mean? And that was just, it was a really awesome feeling.
Sure. And I think, you know, those of us behind the scenes that understand the business a little bit, it really has a lot to do not just with who the host of a program is, but what network is it on, who's producing it, what are the objectives and goals of that network. I mean, even that poor guy on NPR that was forced to ask Bill Cosby the unfortunate question. He said, well, I'm in the news business, that's why I have to ask you this. He didn't really want to do that, but the network, the station made him better. So where I'm going with this is that I was a little bit disturbed to see a lot of the headlines, even checking out in the grocery store, the magazines, talking about feuding between Ellen DeGeneres and Caitlyn Jenner over that interview and views on gay marriage. But honestly, I'm with Ellen on this, because I had watched a few episodes of I Am Kate, where Caitlin had a meeting with GLAAD, and there were people in that room, not really a private room when you got cameras filming and it's on TV, but they were talking about not just the pronouns, but they were talking about use of them and they, and they were like, girlfriend, it's you. You are now the face of the trans community. It's you. It's us. And I saw that. I thought, oh my gosh, maybe she's new, kind of like a vampire that's first been turned and hasn't quite fully got it. But no, seeing that on that episode of I Am Kate, where the people in that private meeting at GLAAD raised those concerns about inclusion, and then to see Ellen raise those issues and even talk about, being Republican and not fully embracing gay marriage, I thought that is a valid discussion to have with Caitlyn Jenner right now, because I think the community would expect her to be fully inclusive and on board. So Ellen was right to have that debate. I support her for that. That was bold.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, it's like there is a sensitivity factor to Caitlyn Jenner because, she is going through her transition with millions of people watching. And there's a lot that goes on, not just physically when you transition, and coming from her background and all that. So I think it definitely was a relevant question. I mean, how are you to be, how do you, when you are, like you said, when you are the they that you speak of, you're not connecting with that community any longer. You're talking as though you're outside of it. You know what I mean? And so it was really awesome for her to kind of say, right to her face, like, hey, like, you are it. You know what I mean? So how can you expect respect when you're not respecting the other part of the LGBT? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, it was an awesome question, and I think that just goes to show that Ellen is, again, way more than just, dancing and laughing. You know what I mean? She's got a purpose, and she knows when to ask and when to play. You know what I mean? And I think that's a great that's a great mix, because you don't want to just filter people with fact after fact after fact. I mean, you want people to feel compassion. You want them to feel a sense of community, even with just within the Ellen DeGeneres show. You know what I mean? So that was just really great of her, and Ellen's she's awesome.
Well, and I'm so pleased that your experience on the show went so well, and others that we've seen in the community. The Rhodes brothers and their father came out, and he showed that he genuinely loves his sons, and he's willing to let them live authentically. So great year for Ellen.
Yeah, Ellen's killing it.
So when was that? I just wanted to get clarity on when was your appearance, because I want to know if it brought more visibility to your story, and did your play counts and your emails and everything kind of go up? I mean, that's a big television appearance.
Oh yeah, for sure. I believe that was in the later part of I did the filming in the later part of May, I believe it was, and definitely helped bring awareness to the story, to the men's health competition, to all that stuff, to the voting. I don't know. I think anybody who goes on Ellen gets like a big kind of spark, you know what I mean, in whatever they're doing. But I think the coolest part is that it was a different kind of spark. It was like a questioning spark. It was a educational moment spark. It wasn't just like, oh, look at this funny video that this person did, and isn't that so funny, she fell down the stairs or something. You know what I mean? It was an actual, like, a story spark. It was like, oh, wow, like, look at this guy. I'm curious. Like, I want to learn more about the transgender experience, and that was really awesome. That was, like, the coolest part of it all, putting the mental health thing aside, just the fact that there are people out there that want to learn, but they don't know how to. They don't know where to go. So the fact that, Ellen is giving them a sense of, hey, like, you can learn from here, and you can learn from this person and that person and this show and that book or this, online source or whatever, that was really cool, and definitely brought a little bit more people into my story and what I've been doing, the last 5-6 years.
Yes. Well, this is great. Now, do you have a pretty strong sense of what your visibility is, both in the community and kind of in the heteronormative world? Do you kind of know where you stand as far as I mean, aside from the fact that we already established that you were in every magazine, even I'm assuming you've had pretty big visibility. But kind of where I'm going with this, Aydian, is that we know, so sometimes somebody can be the headline of the day, and then other things push it through. Like, do you find that there's times where you're more visible based on appearances, or do things stay pretty consistent?
I think, it goes up and down. I think it just depends on what the topic is. It's I think it just depends on what the main topic is about. You know what I mean? A lot of people like to focus on certain things based on what they're writing, and some people love it, some people don't. So I mean, it's kind of up and down. But I really just been focusing on the positive, and like the fact that I've gotten emails from mothers and fathers and brothers and trans people themselves, just saying how eye-opening something was, or just seeing this image or hearing this sentence, and it's like, that's what we need. We need more people out there who are saying and showing, so that other people can have those aha moments where their eyes are opened and, their minds are exposed, and expanded and really, just learning,
That's great. Well, I want to focus on the positive again. So there's a lot of wonderful LGBTQI organizations that we all know and work with and get their emails and their tweets. This is your chance to give a shout-out. What, if any, LGBTQIA organizations have taken you in, asked you to go to speaking events? What are some of the opportunities that you've had through our organizations, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah, I've had a lot of I just got actually an award, an Insight Award from the Feminist Press, Feminist Power group, which is really awesome. It's like they had their 45-year celebration, and they've been putting out feminist books and books by women, for women, about women, empowerment to women for the last 45 years. And I just got an award for Insight, which was awesome because they were giving a transgender male a Feminist Power Award, which was just such an honor to receive, because I know that they didn't have to do that, but they did feel it necessary because, there is an experience there that, not all, you don't have to just be a biological woman to be a feminist. So that was really awesome that they extended their arms to me. I've definitely had, colleges have reached out to me, and which is really cool that some of the colleges are really like North Dakota, Idaho, Montana, all these states that, coming from New York, I think, really they want a trans guy at this college. That's really, really cool. That means that, they're trying to expand, this small town, this small city, you know what I mean? And that's been fantastic. As far as actual organizations, I mean, I've done interviews for, GLAD has been a pretty good support of me, which is really cool. And then HRC did a post on me, which, I know it can be a little controversial, but I really do believe that there's a lot of organizations out there who made some mistakes in the past, but do their best to try to, kind of correct their wrongdoing. You know what I mean? I believe in second chances if it's authentic. You know what I mean? And so I've had...
Oh, I do. I definitely do.
Yeah, and I've had them reach out to me, which is awesome of them. And, it's just, everyone's just been really supportive, and it's just really amazing. It's something that I wasn't really sure if it was going to be there, and I'm so happy and glad that it is there. And not just for me, but it's really, really about all the other, at least for me, the most important part is that, I was a struggling youth who attempted suicide, who was a self-harmer, and I know that there are youth out there. I mean, I speak to them, and I know that there are youth out there that are watching this and keeping their eyes on all this media stuff, and, they're getting the approval from these other organizations. They're finally getting acceptance and just being tolerated, and the conversation is there for them to even speak. And, that's really important to me. The fact that, these organizations are showing our youth that it's okay to be who you are,
I'm so glad that I was finding a way to get to that topic. So on coming out day, our understanding and what a lot of the organizations are telling us is that, regrettably, statistically or in their experience, either there will be suicides or there will be people who are feeling those feelings. And that's why you're seeing, just for example, to give a huge shout out to the Trevor Project, they have their tweets on blast. Here's the phone number again. Here's the website link. Here's the phone. And God love it. I appreciate them because you want to keep that on blast. I'm putting it on blast. But that also means, based on what they've told me, that they're fearful of what could happen to people on coming out day. So, Aydian, what would you say to any of the LGBT youth of any orientation that may be questioning their sexuality, feeling any of those feelings? What would you say to them directly? And what resources would you point them to, if any?
I love the Trevor Project. They've actually worked with me before in the past. I work with them. They're such a great support for the community. Definitely, I always say, there is support out there. And for me, I always suggest people to go to your local LGBT center, and for if you're in a big city, there's usually an LGBT center, tons of people you can meet there, as well as online has a lot of resources. I mean, I came from an online community, so I tend to go back to that when I need support and such. Plus, it's, you have the safety of being in your home, for some of us, unfortunately, that's not a safe place, but I hope that it will be for a lot more people as we go on in the future. But, it's like there's support out there, and sometimes it's really hard to reach for it. But if you just reach a little bit, there's going to be another hand that's pulling you up. And I've been there. I've been reaching and felt like there was nobody looking, nobody wanted to help me. And then all of a sudden, I felt the hand on my back, and someone picked me up. And it was like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, that's all I needed was somebody, just one person, to tell me that it's okay to be who I am. And, it's okay to feel pain, and it's okay to feel like, oh, why am I different? You're not that different. You're really not. You're not that different. You're a beautiful human being who deserves to feel love, who deserves to be loved, to have a life that's worth living. I mean, I can't say it enough to these people who are struggling in our community that, you deserve happiness, and you need to believe that in order to get it. And we're here. I'm here. There are people here that want you to feel that. We want to give it to you. We want you to know that you are worthy, and we're going to do whatever that takes. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to telling our community that we are worthy, and telling people outside of our community that we are worthy. And, reach out. We want to help. There are people there that are just waiting to help you.
That's perfect. And one more thing I want to ask you about. So love wins. So in your case, you found love. Tell us about love.
Yes, I got very lucky. I actually met my wife online, which is pretty common these days. My wife, Jenny Lee, has been a blessing, a savior of mine, that's for sure. I got lucky in the sense also that she had dated transgender male in the past, so that was really cool. She herself was working at LGBT centers. She has an MSW. She's a social worker, and she has been fighting herself for LGBT rights even before I have met her. That was really awesome and a really lucky thing for me to dive into, and she's helped me become more comfortable with myself, and she's, we've discussed, we do actually presentations together sometimes at colleges because she is so passionate about the community, and it's a beautiful thing when you can be yourself and be loved for being that. You know what I mean? It's like what everybody wants, and it can happen to you. It really can. I've met many people.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I met a lot of guys and girls who are transgender and think that they won't be loved, and then I tell them that they will, and they need to believe it, and And then, a year later, I get an email that's like, hey, I found someone. I can't believe it. You were so right. And I just want, there's people out there that, you can love and fall in love with. And, you deserve it. And it'll be there when you're really, really needing it and wanting it.
Fantastic. Now, Aydian, definitely this is a chance for people to follow your work, your videos. Let's do plug around that. Where are you at online? Help us out. Where can we find you online?
Yeah, you can check me out. My YouTube channel is Aydian Spears. You can also check me out on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Aydian Dowling. On Instagram, you can search my name, Aydian Dowling, on Instagram. And also, you can check out the clothing company I have, which everything you buy in there, a large portion of the proceeds go to the surgery fund. You can make direct donations to the surgery fund. You can donate binders. You can donate breast forms. You can do anything you really want to help the community through my company, point5cc.com. That's POINC, the number 5, the letter CC.com. And yeah, I think that's where you can find me.
I will link those all up on our podcast. Thank you so much. I believe the Men's Health magazine is going to be making their decisions soon. Where can folks tune into that big unveiling?
Yes, this Monday, October 12th, you can tune into the Today Show. They'll have some behind the scenes of my trip there, meeting the other guys, as well as some of the photo shoots and some of the workouts we did. And they will be announcing, and I will be learning also, they will be announcing live the winner of the Ultimate Men's Health Guy contest, and we can see if we've made history. And no matter what, it's still going to be an amazing event. We're going to have a transgender man, featured in Men's Health. No matter what happens, whether I get the cover or not, we're going to be opening some minds, and that's really awesome. And you can tune into the Today Show on Monday morning to find out what goes on. I'm excited to find out for myself, honestly.
Fantastic. Well, you are the trailblazer in this. This will be momentous. Aydian, thank you so much for doing the show. You are really a real role model. I really appreciate you and your story and what you're doing, and we're going to stick with you.
Well, thank you so much. It was great coming on, and National Coming Out Day is a great day for us all to celebrate. And again, if there are any youth out there who do need support, please, just reach out. We're here for you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for sharing your story. We appreciate you. Have a good day.
You too.
This is GNR, Gay News Radio.